Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another all-new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today we are joined by Lonzo Starr, the owner and operator of Konkret Comics, how you can back them on Kickstarter. We'll also talk with James Gavsie, executive producer on Rideshare, the series, and the Who Would Win show. All that and more, so stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And this is a full show. My name is James Enstall, the host of Geek to Me Radio. We have two great guests. We're going to dive right in. Right now we're joined by Lonzo Starr, the owner, publisher, CEO, and a creator with Konkret Comics. You can find them on Twitter at Konkret Comics. And we're here to talk about the company itself and their brand new Kickstarter project. Lonzo, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you. It's very exciting. I always love to focus on, I love people doing Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter is brilliant, and I love to see these projects come up and get funding, and you're already fully funded, so we just need to get you to your stretch goals. But Konkret Comics,
Yes,
talk a little bit about the company, your brand new kid on the block. Talk a little bit about the foundation and what's going on.
Well, yeah, Konkret Comics is an independent comic book publishing and producing company. We launched in 2019, and we released our first books at the end of 2019. Our issue ones officially came out January of 2020. And right now we are on pace to releasing our issue twos within just a couple of months of our issue one. So we've got our foot on the gas, and we're headed full steam.
Very cool. And I checked out the Kickstarter. You guys have already exceeded your goal for issue number 2. That's exciting. How many is there a plan for like a certain run of issues and then kind of branch off into solo books for these characters? Or is it just kind of taking it as it comes right now?
Well, each character has a solo book and a solo arc. And they all have different number of books in their arc. Like, for instance, me, I'm the creator of Acolyte. And it's going to be a total of 7 to 9 books for this arc. So I'm making my way to the promised land. And as far as Absolver, he's created by Jamil Lessie. He's a part of Konkret Comics as well. His arc, I believe, is going to be around 7 books, I believe. And then you have Odina, created by Onaji Rouse. He's a great writer, actor, all the above. And his title, I believe, is going to be 8 issues. And then we have the new kid on the block, Andy Starboy. He just joined the universe, and he is by the creator Daniel D. Calvo. He's actually our editor-in-chief as well. And his title is well on its way to completing a full arc. So
very cool. And
the
you've already
plan ultimately is to really establish this universe. There's a lot more characters. All the characters that you see right now are the flagship heroes, the foundational heroes of Konkret Comics. And each one of them introduces new characters throughout their story. So can't go wrong with either title.
Very nice. And you've already got 7 nominations for the 2020 Glyph Comics Awards, including Best Cover, Fan Favorite Award, Rising Star Award. That's got to be very nice to come off of, doing your starting run here, and you've already got some award nominations under your belt. That's got to be a great feeling.
That was extremely humbling and unexpected. I actually got the text message from my printing partner. He texted me that morning and said, "Hey, congratulations on all of your nominations." And I was like, "Excuse me? Nominations on what?" and then I looked at it and I seen that my title Acolyte had, I think it had 5 nominations. And Anaji, I believe he had two or three, I believe. But so totally Konkret Comics had a total of 7 nominations, and the competition was mind blowing. Like the people we were up against were like, you know, well established writers who had written for DC and Marvel, and guys that had arcs for the last 4 or 5 years. So it was just humbling to be listed amongst people of such caliber. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And what got you into comics? What was some of the stuff you read when you were younger, and kind of what prompted you to start your own company?
Well, my mom, some of the first comics my mom used to buy me, I don't think she knew what they were entailed to, but she would just pick me up comics when she would go to the supermarket, and she would always bring home, it was Max and Spawn. Spawn and Max comics were the ones I was kind of introduced to, until my mom opened it up one day and seen all that blood. She said, oh, no. no. So, you know, those guys weren't my favorite, but they were kind of my introduction to comics. Growing up, you know, I was born in 1985, so when I was, you know, around 5, 6, and 7, Ninja Turtles and X-Men were like the pinnacle of all existence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was a big X-Men fan. I watched X-Men 90s cartoon as well as the Batman animated cartoon. That's probably one of the greatest of all time.
Agreed.
I just had, you know, growing up in the 90s was definitely a huge inspiration to who I am right now, you know?
Yeah, they had so many. That's, you know, comics almost had a second resurgence then with all the new characters that were kind of coming out in that series, and they had the Heroes Reborn stuff going on in Marvels. It was a very, very interesting and cool time to be into comic books. So then the idea of forming your own company, when you formed Konkret Comics, was it like you and somebody else decide, hey, let's do this? Was it something, I'm going to do this on my own? Then you kind of like sourced some great talent for the other books. Kind of talk a little bit about the origin story of Konkret Comics. Well,
the origin story it stems from my career as a music artist and a music producer. So I have a music company called Konkret Music, and you know, that's been active since about 2009. And I released some of my first singles and songs around 2010, 2011, and I've just been building since then. And you know, somewhere along my teenage years, my college years, I kind of wasn't into comics at that moment. You know what I mean? Some way it lost me somehow. I was into sports. I was doing a lot of things like that. But I noticed in my music, I would always sneak in, you know, little lines and metaphors about superheroes. So it was just naturally inside of me already. And I had produced and made a song called Clark Kent in 2013. But I didn't release the song because it just didn't feel like it matched the rest of the songs on that current project I was working on. And it just felt different from everything else that I made. So fast forward to, I think, 2016, I believe, I was still sitting on that Clark Kent song. And that's when I started seeing the Batman versus Superman movie coming out. So I said, you know what, this is a great idea. I can use the promotion and marketing of this movie to promote my song.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking of all types of ideas of how to really get my song out there. And there happened to be a Comic-Con that was going on in my local city of Philadelphia. It was Wizard World Comic-Con. And it was my first time ever going to a Comic-Con. I've heard of them, but I've never went. It was my first time going. I printed up all these flyers for my song. I had a whole book bag full of my CDs. And my plan was to go there and hand them out. So when I got into the Comic-Con, it's like all of my childhood love just rushed in me again. I was like, oh my goodness, this is everything. You know, seeing old toys I used to have when I was younger, comic books I've read, you know, all that. And then seeing these actors and stuff walking around, like John Cena walked right by me, just the whole world of it. It just completely rushed into me. So, but that wasn't the official spark. The official spark came a little bit after that. I was still promoting my song. And, what after the song, it kind of led me to want to write a live action story about like my version of Superman, Clark Kent. So I started writing like a whole little pitch pilot. I had directors, I had everything ready, but times and circumstances make things fall through. So I still had the script, but then my friend one day, he shared me it was an animated clip of a African American superhero I had never seen before, and his name was Dark Eagle, and it blew my mind because it was an independent creator, and I never knew about the independent comic book creator market, so it kind of just blew my mind. So I reached out to the creator of that animation, and he happened to be from my city where I was from. He was just a local guy. And I hounded him. I said, hey, man, I just want to make you a theme song, So at first, he said he doesn't need one. He denied it. So I said, hey, listen, I don't need money. I don't need anything. I just really want to do this theme song for you. So he agreed to it. I made him one, and he loved it. But what it did for me, working on that theme song is what gave me the blueprints to how to make my own comic book. Because I had to read a script to understand the character and get all my facts straight when I write the song. So when I read it, I noticed how similar writing a script was to writing a song. And that's how I said, you know what, I can write my own comic book. And from that moment, the obsession began. And that was December of 2017 when I met him, and 2018 was when the obsession began, January 2018. And then that's when I started building my character, the Legend of Acolyte. And I'm big on being independent. So obviously, when I started this, I said, since I already have Konkret music, why don't I start Konkret Comics and start, put myself under my own company so I can protect myself from the beginning. And then that's how I started building. And along that path of me creating my character and joining Facebook groups by the tons, meeting people, asking questions about the business, I ran into a lot of like-minded individuals like Jamil Lessie, the creator of Absolver. Through him, I met Onaji Rouse, the creator of Odina. And we all had a similar mindset, and they were working on their character at the same time as me, and we decided to all come under the same umbrella. And that's kind of where it all started. So I would say 2018 was the building year, 2019 was the launch year.
Very cool. And I know it's
that leads into right now.
It's a great time for this because there's so many people hungry for representation in comics, in media. They want to see themselves. So I'm assuming that's been very helpful too with the launch of your Kickstarters and everything. The fact that there is that need for representation in this market.
It's actually I couldn't explain it any other way besides destiny. Because I could have gotten to comics at any point in my life and been doing what I was doing. But when I decided to get into comic books, I had no clue that this was going to be the type of era we're in. Because right now it's like a renaissance period for Black and people of color content in this medium. And I happened to be at the perfect time to start before it jumped off. So now that it's jumping off, I'm already established inside of it, and that's like a blessing,
Exactly. And then they had the big talk at DC Fandom 2 weeks ago that Milestone Comics is coming back with Dennis Cowan on board, and that's amazing too. So there's it's a great thing. But I love, like I said in the beginning before we started recording, the independent titles. A lot of times these independent titles, and you even mentioned it, that there's some established people who go the Kickstarter and independent route because they have their own creator developed characters, and it's a great way for them to maintain that control without someone over them in corporate saying, well, you need to change this and change this. So you've had great success with Kickstarter. Do you plan to kind of keep it in that vein going forward? We'll pause there, come back and chat more with Lonzo Starr of Konkret Comics about his Kickstarter. Stand by.
Hey, this is Phil Lamar.
Homie, it's Conrad.
The samurai known as Jack. And you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. The second segment of Geek to Me Radio brought to you by Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. Movies are back. You can get out and see great films like Tenet, The New Mutants, Unhinged, and more. Go to MarcusTheaters.com. Check which theater by you is open. Know what practices you have to do going into the movie theater. Wear your mask, social distancing, etc. Use the Marcus Theaters app to order your concessions ahead of time for a contactless experience at the movies. It's a great time. We want to get back and support our theaters, get back and see these movies on the big screen like they were meant to be seen. Go to the website, MarcusTheaters.com, buy your tickets, find the closest location, get your concessions online as well as on the app. And if you liked the movies, let us know what you thought of these films, Tenet, Unhinged, The New Mutants, and more. MarcusTheaters.com. Before we took our first break, we were chatting with Lonzo Starr of Konkret Comics. We asked him about whether or not Kickstarter will be the platform of choice for them going forward.
We use Kickstarter as like a pre-order service and fan service. I would love to just stay completely on the website and just do our launches like that. But Kickstarter is such a great platform to introduce you to a larger crowd of people that are dedicated to buying new material. So every Kickstarter we do, well, this is only our second Kickstarter, and we like to make an event. So this Kickstarter, everybody that supports this Kickstarter, you're getting exclusive covers that will never be printed outside of this Kickstarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything in this Kickstarter, it's a pre-order service, but you guys are getting a collector's item that will never be printed again. And then after the Kickstarter, we'll introduce some new covers that we have for all the people that, maybe may have missed the Kickstarter or just want to buy our books. There's plenty of stuff that we got going on. But yeah, Kickstarter is a great tool to use when you're introducing yourself as a new creator or publisher. And it's also a great way to introduce new characters and to reach a larger audience that you may not have on your own social medias or your own networks. You know what I mean?
And with the Kickstarter, I'm always curious too, because obviously it's a worldwide thing. Do you find what percentage of people are buying them domestically in the United States, and what percentage are kind of like outside of the country? Are they being like people in Asia, Europe? Where do you see the breakdown percentage wise of people buying the comic?
Well, last year at that Kickstarter that we completed, I can say that, majority of it was the United States and Canada. But we had a large percentage in Europe. We had some South Korea was up in there. Some Japan was up in there.
Very cool.
And we have a lot of love in Ghana.
Oh,
Ghana
nice.
and Kenya show a lot of love. And I think Ghana and Nigeria, I believe it's Nigeria, possibly. That's like the African comic capital, where like all of the biggest companies are at. So like Comics Republic, I believe, and Unique Studios. I think they're U.S. based, but I think they are stationed I think they have ties to Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so there's a lot of love. But we get a lot of love. I would say outside of the U.S. and Canada, we get a lot of love in the United Kingdom.
Very nice. And with coronavirus, obviously the stuff people are finding out nowadays, they don't need to work from an office. They don't need to have like a centralized hub. So has coronavirus affected the way Konkret Comics is going forward at all?
Not necessarily going forward. It just redirected our concentration.
Okay.
Because before the corona hit, luckily we had our first book signing at Amalgam Comics in Philadelphia. It's a historical comic book shop. It's the first comic book shop that is owned by a Black woman on the East Coast.
Oh, very cool. And
it's in Philadelphia. And we did our first book signing there, and it was very successful, extremely successful. And that's actually the first bookstore that has our books in there. So all of that was extraordinary feeling. And that happened February. We did it February 29th. So it's cool because it was a leap year day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But right after that in March, the corona thing hit and the world kind of shut down. But before we knew about Corona, we had at least 2 Comic-Cons planned a month for like the whole year. From that point on, we were going to be going on basically a tour, all up and down the East Coast, and we were going to go over to the West Coast here and there. I mean, even still right now, we have a couple requests for a Comic-Con in Africa. There's one in Barbados that we want to do, but Corona kind of slowed down that. And it kind of was a blessing in disguise because I didn't really know too much about online selling and selling through our online store. So it gave me the time to really focus all my energy and attention on online marketing and online sales. And we were able to build our Instagram page pretty large during this period and gain a whole lot of new followers and still garner a lot of sales outside of Comic-Cons. So Corona was a perfect slowdown for us to understand the other side of selling comic books.
That's good. You might even say another destiny moment then. Maybe that was good that you had that chance to kind of pick up all these other skills then and gain the following. That's great.
Yeah, man. It definitely, man. I don't look at roadblocks as, something that stops you. I just look at it as, okay, I just got to find another direction.
Exactly.
There, you know what I mean?
That's a great mindset.
So.
And for people who want to keep up, obviously if you go to Kickstarter, you can just look up Konkret, Konkret Comics. Where else can people keep up with you and Konkret Comics online, social media, etc.?
The main hub is KonkretComics.com. You can get all the information there. All of our merch, our books, our shirts, everything we have, you can get at KonkretComics.com. And we're on every social media platform from Facebook to Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. I don't have a TikTok, but I don't even think I need one anymore because it's about to get shut down, right?
Right, exactly.
Konkret Comics is the same everywhere. Just type in those two words, Konkret, Konkret, and comics, and you can find us.
Perfect.
Anywhere
and
you need to type in.
The Kickstarter, we've still got about 20 days, a little over 20 days left. So if you're listening right now, head to Kickstarter and continue backing Konkret Comics. And then we'll look forward to seeing how those nominations for the Glyph Awards turn into actual awards for you. Best of luck there.
Yeah, man, I definitely, I really appreciate you coming on. And yes, please, everybody support the Kickstarter. We got about 23 days left. To our blessed fans, we were able to reach our goal within 4 hours of launch. That was beautiful, and we're still pushing, still chucking along, and we just added a couple new tiers as well. We have a tier for publishers or bookstores, community activists. If you want to get a bulk order of Konkret Comics, we have it at retail rates, where you can get up to 30 books, 5 of each title for one price of $150.
Very nice.
And so please come on to our Kickstarter store and enjoy yourself.
Awesome. And hopefully once comic book conventions start back up again, Wizard World comes through St. Louis, so maybe we can see Konkret Comics here in St. Louis, and I'd love to meet you in person. We
will definitely come to St. Louis, man. We just had negotiations to get into a store in Texas, I believe. It's in Houston, and now I'm actually just reading over another contract for one in Alabama, and I would definitely love to come to St. Louis as well.
That'd be great. We've got some great comic book stores, and I'm sure they'd love to have Konkret Comics in there as well. Lonzo Starr, thank you so much for your time today, and continued success to you and Konkret Comics.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
My thanks once again to Lonzo Starr of Konkret Comics. Make sure you check out that Kickstarter. Just about 20 days to go to back that. It's a fantastic venture. And if you want to support small independent companies, this is a great one to support. Lonzo Starr of Konkret Comics. Very excited to see where they go from here. We're going to take our next break. Come back and begin our chat with James Gavsie, executive producer on Rideshare, the series, as well as you know him from the Who Would Win podcast. Please stand by.
Get out my way.
Hey, you guys, this is Raphael of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And after we've kicked Shredder's butt, we all get down in the sewer and we listen to Geek to Me Radio. Turtle Power!
Geek to Me Radio is back for the show's third segment. I'm your host, James Enstall, and we have another fantastic guest on tap. We're joined now by a friend of the show, James Gavsie. We've had him on before. It's been a while, so I'm glad to have him back. And now, before we talked about, obviously, host of the Who Would Win show, which is brilliant, and now the producer on Rideshare, a brand new audio drama on iTunes. James, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I am doing great. It has been a while, but I am excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you back. This is a great, great project. I just listened to the first episode, which is already out on iTunes, of Rideshare, and we were very impressed. Talk a little bit about, because this is part of the Digital Sky, so it was like a pilot episode already ran, and then this kind of continues off the pilot. So talk a little bit about Digital Sky, and talk a little bit about the pilot that leads into this series. Sure thing.
So I'm one of the producers amongst a couple other amazing producers for Digital Sky. Britt Baron, who's an amazing legal mind who came on board as well, and Scott Zacharin, who, is heading this up. Now, if you look up Scott Zacharin, he's got an IMDb list of amazing shows and TV stuff, movie stuff. He's amazing, great writer. So, I got to be part of this amazing group. So what happened was Scott Zacharin and Bert and another producer put together this concept of Digital Sky, which was a first season, an anthology season where, different things would happen with different apps, and these apps would change people's lives in a really cool, interesting way, all the way from, superhero, you download superpowers in one episode to another episode where, you could talk to yourself from the future and get, and see what was going on. And then, of course, we had the first episode, which was called Rideshare. And the whole season was really a season of pilots to see, okay, which of these episodes would stick, which of these episodes would resonate with the listeners. And we had just a great reaction for all of them, but it was Rideshare that really stood out. And that's thanks to Eric Martsolf, who is the star of Rideshare. A lot of people may remember he was Booster Gold from Smallville.
Yes, he was.
Right? Amazing guy, by the way. Like, he looks like a superhero, sounds like a superhero, and acts like a superhero. He's a superhero. And then also he's known as Brady Black from Days of Our Lives. Great guy. So he is the star of that episode, star of the series, and co-starring is Britt Baron, who you may remember from Final Fantasy Remake and also from Glow on Netflix.
That's right. That's right. So when you were checking the data, did you go by downloads to see, okay, this was the most popular one? Was it just audience feedback? How did you get the information to say, okay, this is the one we're going to go with?
It was a little bit of both. We talked with our audience members, a lot of them, and we also, of course, saw the downloads. We talked with, a few people, industry experts who said, hey, which of these did you really like? And everyone was just a massive consensus that Rideshare was the way to go. And I think it was really, it was so obvious to us that that's the direction. Now, with that being said, Rideshare was great. We also did an episode called Super App that starred Zeno Robinson, who is, this great actor who's done some amazing voice work on, the My Hero Academia film where he was Hawks. He was a Cyborg on Young Justice. So there's a lot of different talent we've had and a lot of other great episodes. So don't be surprised if we have another spin-off happening in the near future for one of the episodes.
Do you see that happening kind of like, let's put our focus on Rideshare right now and then see which one we do next, or did you think you might have a couple running simultaneously?
The great thing is with this team, what really impresses me is that they just really know what they're doing. The answer is it depends. And, for example, Rideshare, you said that you listened to the first episode. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Of course.
And Rideshare, available on Apple Podcasts to, subscribe and download and rate and review and all that kind of good stuff. Well, Rideshare is also available on YouTube as a motion comic. And we really kind of went in a cool direction because we said we created these audio dramas that were movies of the mind, right? That's how we were selling it.
Sure.
And then we said, well, then how do we enhance the experience even more? So we brought in some great artists, some great animators, and created these motion comics that are going along with the audio drama. So highly produced audio drama, great visual content, The answer is we've got a lot of cool directions we can go in. We're going to see which one gets us the biggest reaction. That's probably where we're going to go.
See, I'm going to have to go back and check out the YouTube motion comic now because I'm one of those people who like to read the book and then go see the movie. So that's perfect.
Right.
I did it in the right order, I guess.
Perfect. Well, you're always do things the right way. That's just been your history of doing things.
Well, I try. I'm sure I've got several school teachers who would totally disagree with you, but that's another story entirely.
Fair enough.
So getting the talent, you talked about Eric and Britt doing this. They did the pilot. Was there any hesitation at all when they said, hey, we're going to do this as a whole series? Did they immediately get on board?
It's so cool what happened. First of all, whenever you talk with actors, one of the things I love doing is working with great actors. And it's not just in terms of talent, but in terms of personality as well. And you're not going to get two better talents with great personalities. I mean, just really cool people than Eric Martsolf and Britt Baron. So when Scott Zachrin explained the concept of rideshare, which, by the way, is, picture your rideshare driver if they were part Dexter, part James Bond, part Punisher, and part Bruce Wayne. And that's who we put together, who is, by the way, your rideshare driver, and by the way, who may steal your car if you're a rideshare driver yourself, and he'll steal it in a really nice, cool way where he won't get caught ever. So, when you have, again, Eric Martsolf, Britt Baron, great people, great talent, when they came on board and when they heard it, saw it, and understood it, they were all in, like, immediately. It was pretty incredible.
I think you left Danny Ocean would be another one I'd throw in there because I got some Danny Ocean vibes. He's stealing from you, but you can't really begrudge the guy for stealing from you. That's just how what a charming thief he is.
That's perfect. Exactly. He wants you to have a great story to tell.
Yeah. And that's so it's going to be just a series of him kind of doing this. And my first thought was, okay, he locked this guy in his wine cellar or study, whatever it was. He let the girl go. At some point, I can't imagine with CCTV camera, smartphones, that he's going to end up getting caught, recognized by someone unless he's hitting different towns all the time. So I'm very intrigued as well. This first episode definitely leaves you wanting more. And we'll take a stop right there for our next commercial interlude. Come back and continue our conversation with James Gavsie. Stand by.
Hello, this is Eric Braden. I'm now on Geek to Me Radio. I'll be damned.
Welcome back to the show, friends. Always glad that you made us a part of your day, whether you're hearing us online on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podomatic, wherever you get your podcasts from. We're glad you're listening to us, taking us with you in the car. Hope your day is going extraordinarily well. We've got James Gavsie on the show this particular segment, and before we took that last break, we'd asked him about Rideshare, talking about that series, and we talked about how that first episode, if you've listened to it already, you know what I'm talking about, but that first episode of Rideshare leaves you wanting more.
Look, I'm so happy that you're getting this exactly how we wanted people to get it. This is a character. Imagine you never needed a house or money because wherever you went, you would always know how to acquire whatever it was you needed. That's this guy. So he lives wherever he wants. He gets whatever he needs to, but he wants to stay underneath the radar because he's having too much fun doing what he's doing. That's the guy. This is not the person who wants to buy a house, get married, have some kids, and live the American dream. His American dream is, hey, I can do what I want to do as a rideshare driver and just have as much fun toying with people as I want.
And I think it goes back because, I'm a radio guy, and it goes back to the radio plays. That's the way things used to be. And Eric Martsolf should know he's a soap opera guy. Soap operas used to be on the radio. So it's kind of, I really dig how it's almost come full circle now.
It is coming full circle. And the reality was that I wasn't a believer when all this was happening. And people are saying, audio drama. I'm like, really? I mean, we have something called, TVs. And you can actually see the visual version of stories being told on YouTube, Netflix, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why would you only want to listen to an audio drama? And then when I listen to a few audio dramas, I'm like, I get it. I mean, it's amazing storytelling because what you picture in your mind oddly enough, can be much better than what someone can actually produce on screen sometimes.
Very true. Yeah, and there's obviously the production costs involved are a lot lower, and you get some of the best stories, honestly, that are out there right now. Some of the Big Finish stories from Big Finish are obviously as good as some of the actual video on-demand Doctor Who stuff that's out there. And I think I can't wait to see the motion comic now that I've read. I keep saying read. It's an audio drama now that I've heard the first episode of Rideshare.
Listen, it's fine if you want to get the transcribed version of the episode, read that, and then watch the video. I'm not going to judge you. That's absolutely fine. You do you.
I'm taking it all in.
That's right. As long as you subscribe to us on Apple, subscribe to Digital Sky and Apple Podcasts. Of course, leave a 5-star rating and review, and subscribe to us on YouTube, like and comment all our stuff. And we really do this for the fans. We talk. We have our own private fan groups on Instagram. We have a Facebook stuff happening, Twitter, of course. But this is something we really want fans to love. So we're hoping you do. We're hoping you enjoy it, and we can't wait to create more of this stuff for you.
And we talked at the very beginning of the show, you're the host of Who Would Win. We had you on the show before talking about some of these battles that you have. And it's been amazing how well received they are and how much the fans get into it. They comment on Twitter like, I can't believe we lost. They really get into some of these battles. It's great to see it. And they're so well done.
Thank you very much. You know what? You were a big help early on when Who Would Win started. And what a lot of people may not realize is that Who Would Win was a TV show concept I pitched. And the whole thing was you got to have the right people involved. You've got to have the right production. You have to have the right structure. Look, anyone can put out a podcast. Anyone can do it. But not everyone is going to put the time and the effort and try things and what have you to really create something special like a Geek to Me Radio or, a Who Would Win episode. And, with Ray Stacanis, our host, he is insanely – look, I'm not a fan of the guy on the show, right? He and I butt heads all the time. It's crazy. He yells at me. I make fun of him. But the reality is he's really good at what he does. And he's got a pro wrestling background. I've got an MMA background. So we come at these battles really differently. And the fans have gone in the most beautiful way. They are insanely fantastic, like insanely fantastic. So – what we try to do is tap into, the whole show is about creating a return on your investment into geek culture. So Who Would Win is more of a sport because we want everyone to be able to debate who would win in these battles. So, we like to bring the passion out of our fan base, and we're going to continue to make the show bigger and better. We have some huge announcements coming up for the show. I can't wait.
And talking about who would win, let me just throw some options out for you, and you tell me who you think would win in these battles. We're going to take another quick commercial break, pay some bills, and come back continuing our chat with James Gavsie talking about Rideshare and who would win. Stand by.
What's up, guys? It's Jeremy Shada, voice of Finn from Adventure Time or Lance on Voltron, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. We want to make sure we mention our premier sponsor, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. The website is, of course, discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. The fall weather is driving me crazy. I love it. I want to get outdoors. I want to be walking. I'm waiting for the leaves to start changing color. And St. Charles is a great place to get outdoors if you're going to do that kind of thing. Go out and explore the Katy Trail, play in Frontier Park, take a bike ride around, go throw the Frisbee around or the football, take your dog out for a walk, take your cat for a walk if your cat's into that kind of thing. Enjoy the outdoor weather. No better place to do that than historic, beautiful downtown St. Charles. Discover St. Charles is the website. You can check out the events coming up like Legends and Lanterns for their fall festival. And, of course, after that, we've got Christmas right around the corner. Take a look at the precautions that are being in place so this festival can take place during COVID with all of our social distancing, how we're going to restructure things and redo them for this particular season to make sure that you, the guest, are taken care of and safe, and that the performers are safe as well. Learn all about the festival. Learn about what there are to see and do in St. Charles. Go to the website, discoverstcharles.com. Before we took our last break, we were talking with James Gavsie. We've had him on before talking about his Who Would Win show podcast, which is great. And so I just threw a couple impromptu little battles his way to kind of see who he thinks would win. So not a lot of thought required. We'll just give it a shot off the cuff.
Okay.
Underdog versus Mighty Mouse.
The fans.
How about Hawkeye versus Cyclops?
Oh, wow, that's great. I'm going to go with Hawkeye because he just won't like Cyclops. He's going to make it personal.
Voltron versus Predacon from the Transformers.
Aha, what version of Voltron?
The Lion Voltron.
What version of the Lion Voltron?
The old school 84 version of Voltron Lions.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yes, then Voltron 100% Predaking. I think we'll get in a few good shots, and then you know what Voltron's going to do, form the Blazing Sword, and yada, 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 Predaking's done.
How about Daredevil versus Gambit?
I am going to go with Daredevil because Gambit's charm won't work on Daredevil, and Daredevil will be quick enough to get out of all of the stuff that Gambit throws at him.
Lee Iacocca in his prime versus current-day Mark Zuckerberg.
I believe Mark Zuckerberg can slap really hard. So if Lee Iacocca can take some of those slaps, and I'm kidding, of course, I have no idea if Mark Zuckerberg can fight or not, but I know he's got people who can fight for him. I'm going to go with Lee Iacocca due to his leathery exterior, being able to take punishment.
And let me see if I can come up with one more here off the top of my head before we go. How about Sonny the Cuckoo Bird from Cocoa Puffs versus Lucky the Leprechaun from Lucky Charms?
Oh, very cool. That would be Sonny, because he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and you just can't battle crazy.
That is true, and I have several ex-girlfriends who can attest to that. So there you go.
Wow.
There's a rapid fire. Who would win off the cuff? Very nice.
You're welcome, and this is what we do at our dinner table, and this is why my wife doesn't bring me to dinner parties.
I can see why now. That's perfect. I'm very excited. I'm still a little bitter that Beast won against Shredder, though. That was my biggest upside. Shredder's got this. There's no way. But some of these battles, man, I just think they're going to go one way, and they totally go another.
You know what? It's so funny because we one of the episodes we had, it was so fun. It was Master Chief versus Cyclops, and I had Cyclops. And sometimes you go into these battles, and you're like, I may be really the big underdog here. So I got to play with the strategy, and I did. And the judge, who was really cool, said, well, I really think, since Master Chief can survive a fall from space, Cyclops, I think he could do so too. He could survive a fall from space and somehow survive crashing down to Earth. And that's why I give Cyclops the win. And of course, Ray goes nuts, ballistic. I feel like I need to go over and give him like a hug, but we can't because of COVID.
Right.
And I just stay quiet. I'm like, sure, okay, if you think Cyclops can fall from space and somehow I don't know what he was thinking. So sometimes I don't know what the judge is going to say. All I know is what I'm going to say. I will tell you this. I try to understand where Ray is coming from as a former pro wrestler. You know what I mean? Where his strategy is, I'm going to take a battering ram and hit you with a battering ram. Right. I've got to navigate around it and stick and move. So anyway, every battle, I have no idea what's going to happen. It's always fun.
And the guest judges always, that adds an element of the unknown for, I guess, both you and Ray.
Well, that's just it. And, in our latest episode, we have Eric Martsolf coming on to judge. And, of course, he was Booster Gold in Smallville. And this guy, he's a great guy, looks like a superhero, sounds like a superhero. And, we were talking just through email. And, I said, hey, it's these characters. And he says, yeah, I did some research. And, this is going to be tricky because, as I mentioned before the show, he said, well, Green Arrow can, launch more arrows, shoot more arrows than Hawkeye can in a 1 minute period. But, Hawkeye has Stark, tech design arrows, talking about Hawkeye from the MCU. And I'm just thinking, this is awesome. We want our judges coming to the table with all of this information.
That's brilliant. And again, if you're a fan of Eric Martsolf, you can catch him on Days of Our Lives, obviously, and also on Rideshare. Subscribe on Apple, iTunes. I'm going to check out the YouTube channel. I'm very excited to see how the motion comic looks.
It's going to be great. We've got some amazing artists on board. Our animator, Chris Warren, is absolutely fantastic and did a great job working with us on all of this. And he's worked for Valiant. He did great stuff for Marvel. And we've got great talent. It's odd. I don't like to say I'm the weak link on this, because I'm not. But compared to everyone else we have in here, I'm often looking up going like, wow, I can't believe I'm here.
Just hold on. Don't let it. It's like Batman and the Justice League, you know. He brings a lot to the table, but comparatively, you kind of wonder, he's in there. So just you're Batman. Just put it like that.
You know what? If I can get a recording of you saying that, that would be fantastic. I'm not saying I'm Batman. I'm just saying I wish I was Batman.
Exactly. I'll send along the MP3 once we're done. That's no problem.
Please.
And tell everybody where they can find you, because you're all over the place on social media. Tell people what the best way to keep up with James Gavsie is.
Sure. Well, you can find me on Twitter at James Gavsie. You can contact me or you'll see me also responding to stuff from the Who Would Win Twitter account at Who Would Win Show. We're on Instagram at Who Would Win Show. I'm on Instagram at James Gavsie. Also on Facebook, we have the Who Would Win Show Facebook group. I believe it's called Who Would Win Geek News and Battles. And that, speaking of insanity, I don't know if you've ever seen that. The Facebook group is insane in the best way possible. The Twitter following, great. And Instagram is also, like, that's our biggest account. They're insane as well. And the interesting thing about this, I mentioned this to Ray, we put up a battle. All three social media platforms completely have different ideas on who's going to win.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. Yeah. By the way, you can find us on Apple Podcasts by going to Who Would Win. And you can, absolutely. Please rate, review, and subscribe. By the way, we're going to have some visual podcasts. We want to develop our Who Would Win show as a YouTube video, kind of like a cool news segment kind of thing, but for an hour long for our shows. And that's going to be on the Digital Sky channel as well.
Very cool. So make sure you're keeping up with Digital Sky and obviously keep up with Rideshare. More of those episodes to come. You can binge all those at once and get caught up very quickly. James Gavsie, as always, thanks so much for your time. Continued success to you, and we'll look forward to talking to you again very soon, I hope.
Thank you for having me on the show. Always a pleasure. Remember to check out Geek to Me Radio.
Thanks so much. Take care. And that's going to do it. Episode 191 of Geek to Me Radio is done. My thanks again to Lonzo Starr of Konkret Comics. Make sure you go on Kickstarter and back their latest project. James Gavsie of Rideshare, the series on iTunes. And of course, Who Would Win podcast. My thanks also, as always, to Joey V, who's making this show sound as good as it does every single week. Thank you all for listening. And until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch I sound be. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show.
Thank you, Philadelphia. Good night. Hi, this is James Enstall, host of Geek to Me Radio, and in honor of my favorite Themyscirian, I've decided to become an Amazon warrior.
Hera, give me strength.
The next time you want to buy something from Amazon, go to geektomeradio.com first and click on our Amazon affiliate link. Simply shop like you normally would, and when you check out, a small percentage will go towards supporting the show. So remember, the next time you want to search Amazon for the latest Wonder Woman graphic novel or parts for your invisible jet, click through from geektomeradio.com first.
The world was in peril. Would you have me stand by and do nothing?